everyone has a point of view. It doesn't mean that you're biased. And so, but just to get people to understand.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Conversation is very important to me, and I'm glad to have you on to talk about it. So what started out as a neo-Nazi murder in Charlottesville and the president's failure to denounce Nazi and white supremacists exploded into a discussion in this country about the removal of Confederate statues. Have we gotten away from the point of what happened in Charlottesville, what it was really about?
And it seems to me we clearly have, and I think that was the point of the alt-right and the white supremacists seizing on an issue that they know that there's actually broad public consensus on not moving a lot of these statues. There's a Quinnipiac poll that came out today showing that 50 to 39 Americans aren't big on the idea of moving all these statues out. So they seized on an issue that they think is a winning issue for them and then tried to broaden out their appeal that way. And I think a lot of folks on the left fell for it. They want to have this discussion anyway, and so they saw the opportunity to have this discussion. But it seems like a misdirection from what actually happened in Charlottesville. The issue in Charlottesville is white supremacy, not whether some people think that statues should come.
He has a point, though. If there was an issue on white supremacy, why is removing statues like the end-all be-all? I still think the statue should be removed. I don't really understand the exact issue yet, but if the issue was white supremacy, why did they try to flip that to removing statues as that's like a consolation prize?
Come down or stay up, because clearly 50% of the American population doesn't want to keep these statues up just because they're a bunch of white supremacist racists.
Did liberals get played by President Trump?
I think pretty clearly they definitely fell for what was, whether he plans it or not, a trap for the left. I mean, he said, you guys don't have a limiting principle. You're going to go after statues of George Washington or Christopher Columbus or Thomas Jefferson. And now you're seeing that actually happen on the left. The most obvious stupid case is this banning of this reporter from ESPN named Robert Lee, an Asian guy, from covering an event at University of Virginia. You know, the political correctness of the left is actually driving people into Trump's arms, even though Trump's initial response to Charlottesville and then his Tuesday response to Charlottesville was entirely wrong. I think that one thing that Trump has had, he's just benefited from the fact that the left is constantly reacting to everything he says with an enormous level of passion, and I think that that's actually a negative. Even what he did last night insofar as going after the media, because the media reacted, instead of doing objective analysis of where he was not telling the truth, they jumped to, you know, extraordinary critiques of his mental health and talking about how he was.
And that's a big problem. If y'all watch my videos, that's a big problem that I personally am facing within myself. I've noticed that one side, and somebody has commented before, I was like, I don't know which side to support. Should I be a leftist or a Republican? And they said something that just struck me, and I'm like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. They said, look at the side that argues with facts and look at the side that argues with feelings. And when I heard that, I was like, that kind of got me. That kind of got me a little bit. Not saying it's going to make me flip or do one side or the other, but I'm just like, how come every time, for example, Donald Trump says something that should be done in the public, he's getting attacked based off of his personal flaws? Like, they talking about his mental health. They talk about, I can't even explain it, but I'm like, why not talk about things he's done? Like, why are y'all talking about his mental health? And he did make a good point removing the statues. Like, where does it end? Are you just going to start removing any type of statue? Is it a specific type of statue? But yeah, man, I'm a little confused, but every day, man, it just gets clearer and clearer what side I should probably be supporting. I don't know, but we'll see.
Crazy and how he was morally bereft and all this stuff. All that does is it plays to his crowd. His crowd thinks that the media is out to get him. His crowd thinks that the media have a particular emotional animus for him personally. And so anything that the media do is going to exacerbate that.
Well, two things. And by the way, just because ESPN, I want to get it correct. ESPN has responded, and they were saying they didn't ban the guy's name is Robert.
Yeah, they moved
Lee.
him off of it.
They didn't ban him. They asked him if he wanted to, and he picked something that was closer to his family. They said that they didn't ban him, and they were looking out for his own interest.
They're trying to take away our culture. They're trying to take away our history. And our weak leaders, they do it overnight.
The media is simply responding to people who are there protesting and to the story of the statues being taken down. The media hasn't called for the statues to be taken down. So I don't understand when he says the media is trying to take away your culture. What is...
Well, I mean, I do think that one of the conservative critiques of the media, and this has been true for as long as I've been alive and probably before that, is that the media have an agenda, a political agenda, and they hide behind this patina of objectivity in order to press forward this political agenda. You know, Don, you were very passionate about President Trump's statements about the media last night, and I think some of that was justified, but I think a lot of it actually goes to what his base thinks, which is they think that you have an animus particularly for President Trump, that you have an animus for his agenda on things like Confederate statues. I think you personally probably want to see these Confederate statues come down. I mean, would you, don't you, is that true? I mean, I would assume you do.
Listen,
Take them down. Take them down. I'm gonna be 100, y'all. I don't even know much about the Confederacy. I know that I think it represented slavery. That's what I've learned. So when it comes to these statues, I'm obviously on the more biased side. And I'll admit it. I'm gonna admit it. Like I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all. So somebody let me know the history of these statues. Comment them down below. I'm very open to learn, as y'all see. So let's get it.
I lived in the South for a long time, and to tell you the truth, I knew the statues were there. I was offended by the statues. Whether they should come down, I would leave it up to the individuals. But I do think that they are insulting to people, just as you would you want to see a statue of Hitler as a Jewish
No, I totally
person,
understand your
right?
point of view. The
would
point
you want
is
to
that
go
you have
to,
a point of
which
view,
I made
right?
earlier, would you want to go to, and listen, we shouldn't pretend that there's this fake objectivity. Everyone has a point of view. It doesn't mean that you're biased. And so, but just to get people to understand, as a Jewish person, you would not want to go to a Hitler high school. Well, that same effect, African Americans, that has the same effect. Robert E. Lee has the same effect on African Americans. And so, and also the Confederate.
I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I don't even know who Robert E. Lee is. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend like I do. And I feel bad sometimes because I should probably know this stuff, but I really don't. This is not good. This is not good, man.
Confederate flag. And so I think we have to be understanding of each other. It's not that I don't like the president or have an agenda against the president. I'm simply speaking the truth as I see it.
Okay, so and I totally understand that, but what he's saying and what his people are hearing is he's saying essentially that you do have an agenda in terms of what you think, promulgating what you think about Confederate statues. You have a clear point of view on that. That's a perfectly acceptable and I think understandable point of view, but the implication is that you are an objective reporter who's
The only thing I would say about those statues is that, for one, I don't know much about them. I'm going to start there. But for two, if I had statues up or if I had something up and people didn't like it, I wouldn't want people to force me to take it down. That's my point of view. I think America does grant people like the freedom of speech, and I think this kind of falls under freedom of speech. So to uphold the Constitution, I do think some things you should just be allowed to keep up based off of your own discretion, unless it's like something extremely harmful. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to these statues or the different opinions on the statues and blah, 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 I think that kind of falls under freedom of speech because I'm looking at it from my perspective. If I had a statue up and you hated my statue, I don't think you should have the right to tell me to take it down. That's what I think, personally.
actually propagating a point of view, whatever that point of view may be. I mean, you just said openly that you don't think that your point of view is biased, but your point of view clearly is biased.
But
I mean,
what I said
like
about the
statues,
president last night coming out of his speech had nothing to do with statues. I was talking about his behavior on stage, so that had nothing to do with that. Yeah.
Again, totally understood. But the way that it read is that you have a personal animus toward the president, and that's the way he wants to play it. So whether that's true or not, that's the way that a lot of his followers are going to take it.
I only have a personal animus towards ignorance when people don't know their history, whether that's the president of the United States, a guest on this show, or someone I speak to on the street. I think if you're going to be able to, you need to be able to defend yourself. And in order to defend yourself, in order to have a right, clear perspective, you need to know history and you need to be educated about it. And in many ways, I think people who are fighting for these issues are not. And that means the people who want to take the statues down and some of them who do not want to take the statues down as well.
I will say this, man. Majority of people aren't extremely educated on these issues. Like, let's be completely honest. Majority of Americans, you've seen it. Majority of college kids or majority of people don't even understand much about the person they voted for. This is why we use our best interest to elect leaders who kind of are the voice for us. They are the ones who kind of not speak for us, but they're the ones who kind of represent us in a way. So when you say you're against ignorance, which then again I kind of disagree with, because ignorance is just the lack of knowledge. You can learn and you can grow off of ignorance. But I guess you could say you're against willful ignorance, like you refuse to learn more. Then that's a debate. Yeah, I'm against willful ignorance too. But we kind of elect leaders to speak for us. So if I don't know much about an issue and I have a leader who does, I'm going to kind of let my leader, not say I'm gonna blindly follow them, but that's what leaders are for. They're to lead. So yeah, man. You said you didn't have a bias towards it. I'm not against Don Lemon. I don't even know Don Lemon. You said you didn't have a bias against the statues, but then you also said you did have a bias against the statues. So I'm a little confused. In your arguing, I do understand having a bias, but you kind of contradicted yourself in your speech, and yeah, man. But yeah, if you have any more suggestions for me, comment them down below. It's LFR Jojo. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, and I will see y'all on the next one.